Hi there, I am Chris from the Ludic Lens, and I got a bit of a question for you today. Have you ever designed, developed, and published a game only to have it crash and burn? Because I tell you right now, I have, and that's not a fun experience. So I'm going to tell you about that story and also tell you about the solution, or not solution exactly, but what I came up with out of that kind of difficult experience. So I sort of began my journey. I'd been teaching things for game design and development for a long time. I just decided to leave that nice, stable university teaching job to follow a dream of making games. Wasn't that a great idea? So I knew the technology inside out. Had an undergrad in computer science and a master's in games, but at the time, really had no idea about the actual holes in my knowledge. So I gambled everything on that game, and well, surprise, surprise, it actually failed. Um, Damn. Failure's not fun, let me tell you. It really isn't. Not a great experience, but it did for me anyway. It forced me to look at the reality of making games and where things are at with a critical eye. Sort of maybe look at reality very starkly. And although there was multiple things, multiple issues, I guess, the one thing that particularly stood out for me was the issue of design and the lack of good design tools that we currently had. Now, so obviously I'd been teaching design. I'd done stuff as well, but the commercial side's a little bit different. So teaching design versus actually doing design. I'd been teaching game development and design since the early 2000s. Yes, I've been doing this for a long time. So I knew what the textbooks, I knew what the theories said about design and development of games. But it wasn't until I'd gone through this experience that I realized that there wasn't much in the way of practical frameworks or tools out there to help budding game designers in that whole process, or even experienced game designers. I think there's a real lack of tools out there, even now. Things haven't necessarily changed. So how did I not see that previously? How did I not? Well, I didn't. So that was life. Interesting thing at the moment. So we're in a different situation. My experience was around 2011, 2012. And since we're in 2026 right at the moment, we're talking like, 13, 14 years ago. So a fair bit of time ago. Things have changed. So 7 to 10 years ago, to get into the games industry or to create your own game, you had to either build your own engine, which is pretty big ask, to be honest, or pay the tidy sum of $1 million US to license, as it was back then, the Unreal Engine 3. Yeah, we didn't have the Unreal Engine 4 or 5. It was the Unreal Engine 3, and yeah, you had to pay $1 million to use that in a commercial sense. Today, things have changed a lot. So we have Unreal and Unity, which are free downloads. We also have other engines like the Godot engine, which I hope continues to be developed, open source engine there. And we at the moment, and I think particularly with Unreal Engine 5, there was a real change in maybe the consciousness that how easy it was to get access to these really powerful tools and also the assets in the asset stores. And I think for a lot of people, and I've seen this with my students, you get access to these things and there's this whole sort of idea of power. I can do anything, whatever. But unfortunately, that's not so much the case. I think it kind of blinds us to what we don't know. And we end up sort of saying, well, how difficult can it be? I have all these amazing tools and whatever there. But that's only half the story. So technology is not the same as game design. So that's the big issue, as from what I can see. So we spent 30 years or so perfecting game technology, both software and hardware. And at the moment, the technology is amazing. It's just great. It's fantastic to see where it is at the moment. It's very accessible as well. You don't have to be a low-level shader programmer to get into game development. It's pretty much accessible to almost anyone. So technology, though, is only one aspect. Without this solid design, how do you know what you're building? How do you communicate to your team? How do you even communicate to yourself what you're actually building? So there's some issues there. What I'm seeing now, as I said, this happened to me, this failure was back in 2012, about 14 years ago. And when it was still quite a high barrier to get into the games industry. So what I'm seeing now, though, is I'm seeing a lot of this happen. And I guess it's not surprising, since I think the last year, 2025, there was 18,000 games released on Steam, and probably 90+% of those failed. So that's going to be 90% of 18,000 people who are going to be really disappointed that their game crashed and did not do anything. So I'm seeing these failures everywhere now. Hearing stories on Reddit, a lot of stories in game dev and game design subreddits about how people have put their heart and soul into it. It's really kind of sad to see that, particularly having gone through it, when you put your heart and soul in something and it just crashes and burns. And basically these games are just disappearing into the void beneath Steam, the Steam store somewhere. They're all out there somewhere in the dark, and they'll probably never be downloaded and played again. And I'd say in many ways, I think it's actually not so much their fault. I think it's, those who are developing those games have in a way been kind of misled by the ease in which they've been able to get in there. They haven't had to go and do the hard yards to learn what it takes to design and develop a successful game. So just going back to myself, after I crashed and burned, and it was a challenging experience. I picked myself up off the ground, got back into teaching. Thankfully, I did have somewhere to get back into, get some income, and I ended up enrolling in a PhD and researching game design, of all things, which is what I sort of came up with after this crash and burn. I examined everything written by the industry and academics, see what was there. Also, probably more important than anything, I drew on my personal experience. I don't think anything really can trump your own personal experience in my estimation. Also, importantly, study the mental processes of design. Again, looking at my own, the way my own mind works, and found Gestalt psychology. You might have come across that. And also design cognition, which really go and explain a lot about the way our minds work when we're doing things like design. Now, these things are very different to things like science. Designing games is not the same kind of thing. It's important to realize that. So what I have come up with during that time of doing a PhD, the years of doing a PhD, it took quite a few years. It was a system and language for game design. So there are three parts of this system / language. The first is the vision, and I think this is really important. The vision that you or the designer or the creative lead has for the game. So that's the creative vision of the game. It also frames the game as player experience. So what are we actually developing when we develop games? Are we developing technology? We're creating a collection of assets that are glued together with programming and a game engine, or are we creating something else? And I'd say we're creating primarily, as designers, we are designing player experiences. So that's the first level. And then the next level down is the architecture, which is the structure of the game, which tells us how those game components come together to create that player experience that we're trying to give the player. And then below that one, we have another layer which links to the others, but tells us the details, because you can't just go and give high-level stuff to your development team. You can't go tell your development team, "Hey, create me a scary game." Your dev team are going to go, "What? Hang on, give me more information." So the detail gives the dev team enough information to actually be able to build your game, your creative vision, to the thing that you see, the idea that you have. So there's a lot more we can go into there, when we will go into a lot more of that. But having that level of detail, going from the vision down through the architecture, which is the high level structure, and down to the detail, which gives us some real detail of the structure, is really important. So my mission, really, I didn't actually finish my PhD. In fact, I resigned from my PhD in November 2025, so literally a couple of months ago. That's another story. There was a good reason for that, and I'll go into that maybe into another time. But as I said, I developed this practical system and language, and I want to share this knowledge and insights with other people out there. And I've been looking at ways to do that, and really, there's a lot to it. Don't look at this sort of 3 levels and think, oh, that's really simple. There's a lot there. There is a lot there, and I've been probably at least for the last 12 or 18 months racking my brains as to how I can adequately communicate what I've got to the game development community. So my plan is to actually write a book explaining how it works. It's going to take that much. I promise you. It's going to take that much. There's a lot to understand. But hopefully what I want to do is to help game designers and developers create actual better games. So created the Ludic Lens here. Like and subscribe to follow, and you can check out my journey from failure to insight, I guess. And also I'll be covering, doing more videos here on the actual language and the system. If you want to know more about the book, please jump onto Substack. If you haven't heard of Substack before, it's a really interesting, what would you call it, platform. It's mostly for writers, which is why I'm on there, because I'm writing a book. So, but if you want to get involved and sort of see preview chapters and see what's going on, jump onto the ludiclens.substack.com. You can subscribe there for free, and there's also a paid tier there as well. There's also we're also having the Ludic Lens live stream, which we'll be doing live every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. That's Australian daylight savings time at the moment. If you are in the US, then it's 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry about that, quite late. Or 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're somewhere else in the world, please just check out where you are. And that's both on YouTube at the Ludic Lens and on Twitch TV /the Ludic Lens. But I'm looking forward to telling you more about what I'm putting out there. And I think you can get a lot out of what I've put together. I spent quite a number of years working on this. I think a lot of people will benefit from it. May not be for everyone. If you want to check it out, see if it's for you, subscribe to this channel, jump on to Substack, and I hope to see you there. Catch you later.